I mean, I see the videos now, to me they look like soft porn. I see women out there thinking that they are in control of their sexuality and how sexy they want to appear and how little clothes they think they're in control. But are they? Are they? Are they not just succumbing to the man's wishes? So still being on the casting couch, even though they're directing it. So I question it, because why give it all away? You know, why? I don't understand that. Where's the illusion? You got people up there naked or nearly naked. Where's the illusion? Never works that way. Where do they go next? I think that music has taken a big turn from the days when it was organic, when it wasn't perfect, you know, and you had the musicians playing the music in a band. I mean, every single song has that, you know, that effect that Cher used on Believe, that vocal effect.
Auto-tune.
Every record has it. Every single record now. And it seems to be the emphasis is not on the beat, the emphasis is not on the balls of a song. It just seems to be, the music of today seems to be undefinable. Can I put it that way?
Of course you can. What is the balls of a song? Could you elaborate on that exactly?
The balls of the song is that it reaches and grabs you. It just takes you in. It's the balls, it's the meat. Like last night when we played. Okay, when I went to Sweet Little Rock and Roller, you were in the zone. You were in there. You were inside the music. I don't think the music does that today.
So you were telling me that you think reality shows, specifically like American Idol and The Voice, have changed the industry for the worse. Why do you think that's the case?
I do think reality shows have a lot to answer for. And I will be honest, first of all, and say that I do watch them because they are good entertainment. But you can't take it serious because you don't find stars that way. And what they've done now is they've made it accessible for nobodies, people who are frying hamburgers or pouring a milkshake or a waitress, or not that there's anything wrong with these jobs, but all of a sudden they go on this show and they're watched by millions of people with a production that even the biggest superstar wouldn't have. How is this okay for the music business, which is all about finding real talent? It's not about finding imitation. They're always doing somebody else's songs. So what you're doing is watching somebody. It's like watching a bunch of cover bands. You know, where's the originality? Where is it? And reality shows have ruined it, I think.
So you were telling me that you think reality shows, specifically like American Idol and The Voice, have changed the industry for the worse. Why do you think that's the case?
I do think reality shows have a lot to answer for. And I will be honest, first of all, and say that I do watch them because they are good entertainment. But you can't take it serious because you don't find stars that way. And what they've done now is they've made it accessible for nobodies, people who are frying hamburgers or pouring a milkshake or a waitress, or not that there's anything wrong with these jobs, but all of a sudden they go on this show and they're watched by millions of people with a production that even the biggest superstar wouldn't have. How is this okay for the music business, which is all about finding real talent? It's not about finding imitation. They're always doing somebody else's songs. So what you're doing is watching somebody. It's like watching a bunch of cover bands. You know, where's the originality? Where is it? And reality shows have ruined it, I think. I have said for years and years now, and I was way before my time, and I took a little bit of flack for it, but I say it again. A lot of people now get into the business to become famous. That's not why you get into business. That comes as an aftershoot of it, you know, if you're lucky. You get in it because you have to express yourself this way. You want to be a musician, you want to be a singer, you want to be in a band. A lot of people today think, I want to be famous. No. How is that real? I don't get it. You know, music is such a personal thing. You do get your artists who are interpreters of other people's songs, which is fine. I don't think Judy Garland ever wrote a song in her life, but surely it's got to be one or the other. You either have to be a great interpreter or you've got to write your own, or both. So what's happened to the artistry? The reason why you get in it. If I had to mentor somebody, and I would do it in a heartbeat, my first instruction would be to go out and do every gig that God sends. Every gig. This is how you learn. You don't learn by going on a reality show and copying somebody else. You go and you do the shows. I don't even know if that exists anymore. The circuit that I came up on when I was 14, the normal was 5 shows a night, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off. That was normal. And you very often had to play the first set with maybe one person in the bar, sometimes nobody. So this is how you learn, you know? A few people come in, you start to see if you can get their attention. A few more come in, then you get to the ending show and everybody's in and you're going. This is how you learn. From playing the shit to the best. And then when your turn comes, if your turn comes, that you have success, you've done your homework. And there you had my whole speech there. That's what I would tell somebody up and coming, yeah. I just made the album with QSP, and it is that kind of album. It is us in the studio, 3 musicians playing together, doing our favorite covers and writing new songs. And we got to number 23 in the charts, and we're all like over 60, nearing 70. So, but we're the older generation. Is it going to come back with the younger generation? You need people to get sick of this trend that's happening. You need them just to go back the other way. Originality is always there. Artists are always there. It's whether it's nurtured or not. So it does need to be nurtured. If I was, maybe I'll start a school, the real school of rock and roll, the real one, I hope it comes back, because I don't like the way it is now at all. I just don't like it. This business has always been a get-rich-quick business. Sure, that's how it is. But there seems to be, I think, I say it again, just all the originality and guts has been ripped out. It has become business. So much so that now record companies, when they're signing artists, now want part of their tour money and their merchandise. So it's become business.
What did it used to be in terms of the deals? It
did used to be, but it's more so now. It's more so now, more business. Because there's less originality, because it's become an art form now, Oh, we find a bunch of people, we put them together, we put them on a reality show, they become famous, and we make lots of money, and then 5 years later you never hear from them again. This is how it goes. What happened? They're killing the originality. Today's process is killing the originality of the business.
Do you think there's any hope that it can go back to the way it used to be?
I'm hoping it will go back to what it used to be. I think, my granddaughter, she's coming up, she's 16 now. Whenever I say to her, do you like so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, who's popular? Most of the time she says no. She goes backwards. She is going back in her mind and her loving to when the artist was an artist. They're not artists anymore. They're a bank investment.
Now we're going to put you to work. Mark Farner, get your ass out here.
Do you think it's possible for there ever to be a band on the scale of, like, let's say a Beatles or a Zeppelin, like a rock band that could change popular music again? Or are those days done? What do you think?
Yes. I think there could be a band, again, coming up like the Beatles, like the Stones, like Led Zeppelins. It's going to take a bunch of kids maybe dipping into their parents' record collection, getting together, forming a band for the right reasons, and then creating something. It's creation. I talk with other artists all the time. A lot of them are my own age group, you know. We talk about the future of rock or what music is now. And yeah, sure, I have the conversations, yeah. And in fact, I have these conversations with my son, who's a fine, fine guitar player. He's 32. I talk with my daughter. She knows her music. She's a good singer. Yeah, I have these conversations. I talk to my granddaughter all the time. We talk about the minuses and pluses of different acts and different groups. We have a lot of musical debate in my own little family unit. Yes, I keep abreast of it all. I'm a bit of a purist, and I think rock and roll is rock and roll is rock and roll. It's that organic, it's that sexuality without it being sexual. It's not perfect. You know, maybe it speeds up a little bit. Maybe the bass player isn't exactly right. This is, and it's got a feeling about it. It's feeling rock and roll. It's a feeling. It's an energy. It needs to be rediscovered if it's going to be in the future, because right now everything is just too perfect. So if rock and roll is going to go into the future, it needs to be rediscovered. I'm carrying the torch as long as I can, but I won't be here forever, you know? There was that big show, the Ed Sullivan Show, which we all watched all the time, and the Beatles came on. That was 1964, and we all got all excited, and my sister and me got on the phone and called 2 other sisters that we know and another girl down the road, and we formed the Pleasure Seekers, the first all-girl band that I was with. And it was as a direct result of seeing the Beatles on television.
Beatles made you want to be a musician?
Well, no, I was already a musician. I come from a very musical family, and I already played classical piano and percussion. But when we saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, me, one of my sisters, and 2 other sisters, and another girl, all from the same area, got on the phones, on the extensions, and were screaming, and hey, why don't we form an all-girl band? Bang. So that was instrumental in starting the all-girl band, 100%. Elvis Presley I saw when I was 6, and I decided I wanted to be him at 6. And then at 14, the Beatles on the same television show, and we formed an all-girl band from that day. So very instrumental to me as a person anyway. I even told Paul McCartney that story. He absolutely loved it. He was thrilled.
I saw an interview on YouTube, of all places, that apparently, I forgot the details, but Elvis invited you to his house or something when you were on tour or you were busy. Like, what happened there? When was this?
It was 1974, and I have a tradition on all my albums since I started having my success that I would do 2 or 3 covers on every album. My first album I did All Shook Up, and Elvis apparently heard it. He was sitting at Rodney Bingenheimer's, which was a very famous 70s club, and Linda Thompson told me that he was listening to my track all night long and seeing my poster on the wall there. Not in a sexual way, just interested. And when I went to America to tour, he called me in Memphis and invited me to Graceland. His people got on the phone first, and then he got on, and I just was not ready. So I said no.
Not ready in what sense?
Not ready to meet him. I wrote a song called Singing with Angels. It's quite a known song now. It was written in tribute to Elvis with James Burton on guitar and the Jordanaires. So give me a break. I think if I'd met him, that song would not exist, and it's an important song. It's sort of his gathered legs. Everybody knows about it. People play it at funerals. It's one of these special songs. And if I'd met him, I wouldn't have had that spiritual feeling about him that I do.
What was the Summer of Love?
It was the era where everybody thought they could change the world. The young thought they could change the world. We stopped. We didn't want wars anymore. It was make love, not war. All that whole hippie thing.
How old were you during the Summer of Love?
I was 17. I can't say that I embraced that, even though I was a 17-year-old, and it should have been everything of that era should have been screaming at me to be part of it. But I think I was slightly removed from it because I was in a band and working. So I wasn't being a teenager and rebelling. I was a working girl from the age of 14. So it gave me a different viewpoint of it. It was just to me like a phase that the world was going through. Just a phase. I couldn't take it serious. And I ended up being correct, because the summer of love turned into the summer of ripoff eventually, you know. So, but it produced a lot of good bands. I mean, jamming came into its own. You had all that West Coast scene. I mean, a lot of good stuff came out of it. The Monterey Pop Festival. Well, it was supposed to be the getting together of all the best acts of each year. They were all, you know, there was a lot of, I think, I'm trying to think who made their name there. I think Janis Joplin, I think, oh my God, how many? So many of those 60s acts went there. And then, of course, you had Woodstock, you know. And there was some surprise. Santana was the surprise of Woodstock. That was it. Nobody expected that. London was like a mecca to people. I mean, you know, you had everything going from America to England for a long time. And then you had the British invasion, which all the acts were coming from here and going over to America. And so England got this really swinging, everything was happening here, you know. It was like the place to be. The hair, they had the long hair that we didn't have in America. The guys wore their hair long. There was just a whole movement coming from here. I can't explain what it was. I was just a teenager. I only heard it through the music, but it definitely felt like a mecca, some place to go to. London. Maybe that's what started my love affair with this country. You know, way back when.
When did you move here? Just out of curiosity.
1971 I moved here.
Wow, you've been here for a while.
A long time, yeah, but I'm still Detroit. I will always be the girl from Detroit City. Psychedelic rock, that was a direct descendant of acid and getting stoned. I mean, that's what that was. You know, everybody was high all the time, and that's what that was. And then, and that was people like Jimi Hendrix. Oh God, who else was in there? Big Brother, Grateful Dead, all those kind of people. And they were a lot of that came out of the Haight-Ashbury district. Your Jefferson Airplane, great album. Surrealistic Pillow, just great. And then that led, after everybody got done being stoned and started to get straight again, then they started to get into progressive rock, which is things, I presume, I mean, things like Chicago Transit Authority and Yes and Nice, and where it got very seriously musical again. Before it was jamming and stoned and how long can we do one riff. Okay, that's what the psychedelic era was about. Echoplexes and noise, and you know, that's what it was. And then it got serious again, progressive rock. The psychedelic stuff was, and you actually cut your teeth on it, I did definitely, was where you played your instrument for hours. It was like these solo sections would go on for longer than the song. So it was like really like, hey man, you know, you're out of it and you're playing and playing and playing. It was, you had to be stoned to get into it. The psychedelic rock, you actually had to be stoned. That's what it played on. The progressive rock is, like I said, it's musical. Really, punk rock followed hot on the heels of glam rock, to tell you the truth. That's what it followed on. And that's where, I mean, I get classified in the glam rock era only because my hits were at that time. That came from the Ziggy Stardust stuff, you know, and the platform heels and the boys dressed up with makeup and this and that and this and that. So then punk went exactly anti-establishment. They went anti-establishment at that point. I think it was a direct result of what was happening at that point in music, not progressive rock. That was before that. Punk followed my first hits. That was the next thing, and they call me the early punk rocker. With the leather jumpsuit and the bass guitar, and that's what they call me, but I don't see myself as punk at all. I just see myself as based in rock. In the 70s, you had all your different, you had your glam rock, you had your progressive rock, you had your sweet girl singers, you had a lot of different kinds of music. There was definitely a different attitude in American punk and English punk. English punk was very much against society, you know. I mean, Johnny Rotten went on nationwide TV and said the F word, you know, and that just wasn't done on the BBC, you know. And, you know, it was all the electric hair and the piercings and flicking razor blades at people. I think they were anti this country. It started here.
England.
Yeah, the Sex Pistols and all that. So they became anti-establishment. They were angry, and instead of in the '60s where the young people got mad in the '60s and in the '67s and all that, and they turned it into love. Okay, peace and love, and they got mad again all over in the '80s again, late '70s, '80s, and they turned it into hate, because punk rock was all about hate. It's all about aggro. With the piercings everywhere and spitting on people, and that's what that was. That's what the English was. English was anti-establishment, the punk movement. In America, it was a little bit more of a business.
In your mind, what's the timeline of classic rock?
I don't think classic rock is over. It's even hard to define. And I think everybody's got a different viewpoint of what classic rock is. I mean, I don't know what I would even call it. I'm trying to think of who I would call classic rock. Give me a band who's classic rock, in your opinion.
Suzi Quatro.
Okay. Then that means to me, if you use me as a basis of classic rock, means you're based in the origins of rock and roll, which is the Chuck Berrys, the Little Richards, the Jerry Lee Lewis. You're based in that, and you've turned it into something contemporary. So you have to start with that blueprint. Here we go again. That's the blueprint. If you have that in your repertoire, then you're classic rock, yes. It's guitar motivated, for sure. Guitar riff motivated. And it's got a very, very strong bass and drum line in it that plays together. That's your classics. It's not too many chords, It's kept simple but heavy. Classic rock embodies the basic ingredients of rock and roll, which is your blueprint laid down by Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard. It exploits a sexuality, has no boundaries, so you can let it all out with rock and roll. It makes you think, it makes you feel, but at the same time, rock and roll, if it's good rock and roll, can just take you into another sphere that you don't even have to think at all. You can just fly with it. Good rock and roll will transport you. For a band like Nirvana to come along, you need a tortured soul like Kurt Cobain was. A tortured soul who just drew you into his pain. I never got into him when they were out, and now my granddaughter plays them to me, and I keep saying to her, wow, I'm so into Nirvana, and I never was. My daughter played them, and I didn't like them. My granddaughter plays them, and I love them. So I came to them late. I don't know so much if all this inspiration is around anymore. I think that reality shows have killed off a lot of creativity. I do. It's sort of made being famous more important than making good music. And I'm going to leave that there. This is how I feel about it. You don't find true artists by having a talent competition. It doesn't work because you're attracting the wrong kind of talent. You're applauding mediocrity and mimicry. I mean, can you see Kurt Cobain on a reality show? Are you kidding? He wouldn't get past the first audition. Yeah, labels used to be labels. They were families in a way, little families. And if you were with one, you usually stayed for your career, I mean, I was very close with Mickey Most, who's passed on, now Rack Records. Nowadays, as I said before, everything is disposable. It's like it's fast food.
So artist development isn't the way it used to be?
No. Artist development, I don't think even exists anymore. Not really. Everybody's just after the quick buck, and like I said, the attitude of coming into it now is wrong. I mean, years ago, the Elektra Records, they went to the Whiskey A Go-Go, they saw the Doors. They said, wow, let's make some music. That's how it's done. You find somebody, turns you on, and you take a little raw artist and you say you've got something, and you put them in the studio and you start developing it. You throw it this way, you try this key, you try that little arrangement, and all of a sudden you have an artiste. An artiste. That's what it's all about. And I'm still an artiste, and I will be to the day I die. My advice to anybody up and coming is you just have to go out. First of all, learn one instrument properly. I think you should learn one instrument properly, read and write it, whatever it may be. So you have a basic working knowledge. Hone your craft. Play every single gig you can get your hands on. It's total dedication. I'm 52 years in the business, and I have the same love, the same respect, and the same need to go out and entertain. That has never left me. And if you haven't got all these things, and self-belief is important, then you're in the wrong business. You know, it's not an easy job. I still have to go in there and play my bass every day. I don't just walk out on stage and take it for granted that I'm going to be great. I work at it. I'm dedicated to my job, and it is a job. It's a calling and a job, both.
People still believe in the power of rock and roll music.
Hey, thanks for watching. My name is Daniel Sarkisian. I'm an independent filmmaker from Toronto.
I hate that guitar, but I can play that in one scale.
Don't you dare laugh.
You know, I try to embrace the rock and roll spirit in the sense of I do everything self-funded and independently made with no oversight. As such, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for watching.